Howdy, welcome to another music collection video. Today's video, we're going to be going over all the ins and outs of the Beatles Anthology Collection full box set. It was just announced sometime in the past like 3 to 5 months, and it just got to me yesterday. So we're going to go through the ins and outs. I would like to preface the video with a couple statements. First, in terms of how big of a Beatle fan I am, from a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably like an 8 or 9. I love the Beatles. The Beatles are great. In terms of knowledge, how much facts and interesting know-whats I know about the Beatles, maybe like a 4 or a 5. I don't know too much, I just enjoy the music. With that being said, there's going to be 2 things that I go over in full detail with you guys. First being the limited art prints that were included in the box set, and second being the full first anthology 3 LP set. I've gone through the packaging myself, I always do before I make these videos, and all the anthologies, at least the format in which the content is placed in, is all the same. So in the places you'll see pictures, typically the pictures are going to be in the same spot. Where there's artist notes or historical notes of any kind, those are going to be typically in the same place. The cover is going to be different for each of the anthologies, and the background might be different for the written notes or the pictures. Very minor changes throughout the 4 anthology sets, but it's going to be really easy to follow, I promise. And I don't want to, get repetitive or redundant, with the same terms being said over and over throughout the video. So I am going to take my time though and give you a good look and try to get the best camera angles and quality that I can to show you the ins and outs of everything in here. Last thing before I get into this. Throughout the other 3 anthologies that I said I'm not going to be repetitive or redundant about, I'm just going to go over, my experience with the Beatles, when I discovered them, my favorite stuff, yeah, just my overall thoughts and feelings about the Beatles. Considering this is the anthology box set with demos and unreleased stuff and specific mixes, vocals, instrumentals, I think it'll be very appropriate for me to talk about my, overall likeness for the Beatles, how I discovered them, considering this is going over their entire discography pretty much. So finally, with all that being said, hope you stick around, hope you enjoy taking a look at everything inside the box set, and yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so on the front is the cover for the Beatles Anthology Box Set Collection. As you can see, Beatles band name at the top, and on the middle to bottom portion of the cover is a picture of the Beatles Anthology Collection stated at the bottom on a paperback wrap around the whole box set. On the side, we have again the Beatles text with the Anthology Collection stated again. The opposite side stating Anthology Collection again on the paperback wrap, with the opening containing all the LPs. On the back, we have on the top a little paragraph describing what exactly is on the anthology collection, very broadly. But on the middle to bottom half portion in the paperback wrap is listed every single song that is in each anthology. Taking off the paperback wrap, we have the back side of a canvas, which in the middle in a white text box, the Beatles logo, underneath listing the anthology collection. On the front without the wrap is the opposite side of that canvas from the back side, this time showing the artwork for 3 of the anthologies, and revealing again the title, Anthology Collection. So taking off the wrap, you can clearly see better what is included in this box set. We have Anthology 1, 2, 3, and 4, with this little black envelope being the limited art prints. So these limited art prints are limited. So on the website, if you're purchasing one of these box sets, I'm not sure if this was within the first 8,500 you get these, or if there were separate listings, one being a cheaper version without these art prints and one being more expensive with the art prints. I'm not really too sure. It's like I said, it's been a couple months since I've ordered this, but here we are. So we have number 7,269 out of 8,500 for these 4 limited art prints. So on the front is the Beatles logo, anthology stated, and which number of art print we are on out of 8,500. Nothing on the back side except for the exposed opening for the envelope for the art prints. Alright, so all 4 of these photos are going to be of all 4 of the Beatles in fantastic detail. They're pretty large photographs taking up almost the entirety of the envelope. Incredibly stunning photos, but I'm so sad that there's only 4 of these. I definitely wish there was more. Alright, so next up in the box is the first anthology in the 4 anthology box set. This one featuring 3 LPs with songs utilizing all space on both sides of the LPs. On the back side is again the back of a canvas within the middle stating the songs that are featured on what sides of the LPs inside the first anthology, and credits on the top left regarding the producer, director, art direction, cover concept, and other various credits regarding this first anthology. So this is a tri-gatefold packaging, meaning it opens up, revealing 3 full pages on the front and the back, but I'm going to do various shots showing you 1 page at a time and the full tri-gatefold packaging unfolded. Alright, so on this first page we have listed each of the song titles and which side of the LP they're on, who wrote and composed each of the songs, where and when they were recorded, who's responsible for producing each of the songs, and engineer credits. Below, you'll see a pretty large paragraph under each of the song titles, each one being one of the Beatles speaking to someone who was involved in assisting in the creation of the song, or news outlets who were conducting interviews with one of the Beatles individually. For example, Free as a Bird, this is John Lennon in this paragraph speaking to Jane Wenner of Rolling Stone in 1970 regarding the song Free as a Bird. In the middle portion of the tri-gatefold packaging is photos of the Beatles, dates ranging from 1960 to 64. On the third side of the tri-gatefold packaging, when unfolded, is the additional song titles on the rest of the LPs in the first anthology, with recording credits, producer credits, and engineer credits, with the bottom right this time showing recordings and publishing credits in more further detail. On the folded portion of the tri-gatefold packaging, we have a note from Derek Taylor who's explaining kind of the start of the Beatles and their importance in their beginning. Trying to get the best angle I can here, but fully unfolded in the front, here's what it looks like, and fully unfolded on the opposite side. Alright, so in total there's 3 LPs. All the labels feature the same written content on the front and back. The only difference is the background featuring the apple, either the front side or the cut open side of the apple, and which side of the record you're on. So I'm just going to show you the front and back of those right now. So I just finished putting the record sleeves and the records back in their respective spots in the first anthology, but here's where the video is going to be a bit different from here on out. Like I stated, the format and placement of in which the content is on is going to be the same. Song titles, credits, are going to be in the same spot on the rest of the 3 anthologies, as well as the pictures, the cover, the backside. Is all going to be pretty much the same format in which the content is placed in. The only difference in the 3 anthologies is really going to be the content itself. The pictures are going to be different, the song titles and credits are going to be different, cover and the backside and the notes are all going to be different. So instead of telling you what you're going to be looking at, I'm going to instead just give you the best camera angles and best lighting situation I can to show off the artwork, with the audio being me explaining to you how I discovered the Beatles, my favorite stuff. Let's get into the other 3 anthologies. So real quick, I'm going to give you a little rundown of how I listen to music, how I consume music. So if there's an artist that I've wanted to listen to, dig more into their discography, I will always start at their most popular stuff to see if I even like them, Sometimes the more popular stuff from an artist is a good tell of, what the rest of their sound is like. Sometimes it's not. But considering it's the top songs or top songs for some reason of any kind, that's where I like to start off. So for example, one of the first artists that I really got into was Elton John. I started with the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album, as that is his most commercially well-known album with some of his most well-known songs. So I started there, and it turned out to be a really good place to start for me. Sweet Painted Lady and The Ballad of Danny Bailey were the 2 first songs that I really fell in love with from Elton John. Yes, Benny of the Jets is on that album, and some other great hits are on that album that are definitely more popular than those 2 songs that I really liked. But I think it really opened my eyes up as to, what lies within an artist's discography. So, starting with Elton John as my first artist that I, started listening to music in this fashion, I then started from the beginning. His first album, all the way into his most recent album. And since that experience was great, I decided, I'll listen to any new artist that I want to discover in that way. So some other big artists that I've started with that way, most popular songs, then started from the beginning of discography to the end, would be the Bee Gees, Harry Nilsson, Colin Blunstone, the Carpenters, Rufus Wainwright, Herbie Hancock, Billy Joel, just to name a handful. I have all started with their most popular songs, maybe listen to like 10 to 12, see what I like from there, and if I'm really into them, start the discography at the beginning, go on to the end. It's been about 5 or 6 years since I've started that process of listening to music. Now, in specific talks of the Beatles is one of those artists that I knew I was probably going to get into, but really wanted to hold off listening to them to let my music taste kind of mature and prep for what my ears may be, exposed to. So I think for, those 5 or 6 years I was doing that process, I've had people in that time span tell me, oh, what's your favorite Beatles album? And I'm like, I've never heard a full Beatles album. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I only know the most popular songs. Like, I've heard them in passing, like on the radio, in the background, when going out to places. I haven't really heard a lot of the Beatles. I know of them, and I know of the titles of their most popular songs, but that's about it. People are like, no, get started on the Beatles. Start listening to them. Without ever really giving me a good reason as to why. So with getting all this feedback and just repetitive statements of, you gotta listen to the Beatles, you gotta listen to the Beatles. So I figure, okay, it's time to start consuming more music. So throughout the past couple years, I've been consuming music like crazy. Not just anything that's, available on streaming services, or not anything just everyone recommends to me. I really honed down on my taste, really found what I like and why I like it and why I don't like it. So it wasn't until, recording this, it's November of 2025. It wasn't until about October or September of 2024 when I heard my first Beatles album in its entirety. This time, however, I was recommended by multiple people to start at the beginning of the discography. So that's what I did. I went on Apple Music, and the first album listed is Please Please Me. I've also been told by people to, skip the first 3 or 4 albums, as that's not really where they shined exactly. But more people were telling me to listen from start to finish than from their most popular stuff, then start to finish. So yeah, I'm looking at the album list right now on Apple Music. It's Please Please Me, With the Beatles, Hard Day's Night, and Beatles for Sale. Those are the ones that I kind of flew through, in a sense that, yeah, some of the songs are great, but there wasn't too much, oomph to them. There wasn't too much, complexity. There wasn't really anything at that point that was like, these guys are the best. But I was definitely starting to understand the cohesive teamwork and connection that the band members had between themselves, through their music. After that 4-album run for me, then came Help, which I definitely like more than the first 4 albums. Then came Rubber Soul, which for me was a bit of a drag. There was only really 2 to 4 songs that I liked on that album, really liked on that album, but decided to carry on through. Revolver is the first Beatles album that I could probably say that I was really sold on. Definitely had more songs that I was really into. I'm looking at the track list for Revolver right now. Yeah, favorites. Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, Here, There, and Everywhere, and For No One. But overall, outside of those 4 favorite songs that I have, that was the first album that really brought to light, I think these boys got something. I think the Beatles got something going. Then comes Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour, which have very similar works in a sense, but very different works compared to the rest of their discography. Again, I'm not the most knowledgeable Beatle fan in the world. I am a big fan, but not the most knowledgeable regarding facts and stuff. Sometimes when people say, oh, what's your favorite song from Sgt. Pepper's? I'll name a song from Magical Mystery Tour, and, vice versa. They were made roughly around the same time, extremely well-produced songs, but give off, somewhat of the same vibe to me. So the span in which I listened to those 9 albums I just named was probably within a month or 2 span of time. But I made sure that I listened to the albums start to finish in one sitting. Once or twice a week, I would listen to an album front to back in one sitting in one of those days. I marinated in my favorite songs from those 9 albums for the next maybe 2 or 3 months or so. Didn't move on to the White Album or Yellow Submarine, Abbey Road, Let It Be yet. I wanted my taste to mature with the Beatles before I got into their final works and really appreciate what I have, before rushing into anything else. After repetitively listening to my favorite songs so far, and it might be cheating because the White Album has about 30 or so tracks on it, but it has my most favorite songs from any of the Beatles discography. Yellow Submarine, I liked it just a little bit. Abbey Road. When it comes to adding songs to playlists, in my terms, I have artist playlists. So I have a Stevie Wonder playlist, I have my favorite songs on there. Elton John playlist, I have my favorite songs on there. Abbey Road, I think the only album in the Beatles discography that I have every single song downloaded onto my Beatles playlist. I think it's a 10 out of 10 album, no skips, a great time. And I would kind of urge you guys to do the same, or at least try to practice this a couple times in terms of listening to music with more intent, is to, let your music taste mature a bit, depending on how deep you are, into your music listening journey. It would work better if you're starting fresh, find some new artists you want to listen to their discography front to back, most popular songs, then front to back. But definitely don't rush and hop from artist to artist to artist to artist, because I think you'll find a little bit of confusion in yourself, finding out what you really like, what you don't like, and why you like and dislike stuff. Oh, and Let It Be, also a great time. But yeah, I think the way I went about, discovering the Beatles and listening to their work, I think it was one of the best ways that I could have gone about it. Wasn't disappointed with my Beatles journey, and I'm probably going to, now that I have the Anthology box set, going to listen to everything from, start to finish again. as it's been about a year since I've done that. So maybe a good refresher and then listening to some of the outtakes and demos and different versions of the songs would do me some good. Maybe help me appreciate the Beatles more and gain my knowledge of the Beatles from like a 4 or 5 to like maybe a 6 or 7 or 8. But yeah, I think that's gonna about do it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at the ins and outs, the artwork and the notes for the Beatles Anthology 1 through 4 and the limited art prints as well. If you're new to the channel, thank you for clicking on the video and hope you check out the rest of the channel. I think with the Beatles Anthology, I think I'm on 38 or 37 music collection videos, but I do have 38 or 37 other videos going through the artwork, explaining some of the history and showing the packaging in full detail for many different albums from many different artists. I'm almost at 500 subscribers, so please subscribe if you would like to. Well, yeah, let me know in the comments your experience with the Beatles. If you got the box set, how you discovered the Beatles, in which order you started listening to their discography, what you really like, what you really dislike. Let me know in the comments. If there's another favorite Beatles albums that you have that you would like me to go over, let me know in the comments. And if there's a favorite artist album of yours that you want me to go over, also let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one.